Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels. This summer, we are hosting our Romantasy Edition of a book club while we prepare for our 15-part literary analysis of Sarah J. Maas's A House of Sky and Wrath.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
Each week, we'll discuss one book from our Summer Book Club roster. By using our literary background, we'll provide our first blush analysis of each book, as well as discuss listener thoughts.
This week, we are discussing The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author.
This podcast is a discussion, shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of the many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series and extended universe spoilers may be discussed with or without warning.
Explicit language as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
So one of our readers, we have a couple different comments from our readers about the relationships.
Listeners.
Sorry, listeners. I apologize.
I mean, our listeners did read, so, you're not
read.
wrong.
No, they're both. They are both. Amy, not me, but a different Amy, said the father-daughter relationship and the Misha-Rain relationship were one of the highlights. Another listener, Ray, said the relationship with her father is also very compelling, and I haven't read anything like it. And I agree. I think there's a lot of depth in that relationship, and it only continues to be explored. But I think a lot of the depth from that relationship has to do with the narrative style and the structure of the novel as well, which we can talk about now, we can talk about later.
I'm not talking about it now.
Okay.
Unless you're looking at something else.
Oh, I was going to talk about Misha and Rain since we had...
Oh, yeah, let's go Misha Rain and then we'll...
Okay. So one of our listeners actually... So we had one listener who mentioned that they liked the Misha Rain relationship. We had another listener who said they didn't like Misha.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Misha gives me fluffy black cat vibes, which I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I like black cats. But what did you think about Misha, Jac?
I love a non-threatening female character. I love when you show male and female relationships. I love that's not, romantic. I love when you have two women together and a man and they're not jealous or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I love the familial bond that we get with Rain and Misha. And I love that Misha is so warm and is able to help coax Aurea out, because I think Misha was the first one to get Aurea out of her bubble.
Yeah.
And Rain helped solidify that. I think that not only was she so important there for, developmental reasons, but I think that's one of her really important things is that, like, it was not hot guy wins Araya over. It was Misha who won her
Yeah.
over. And
Yep.
then Rain was kind of able to enter there. She's there for comedic relief and stuff, but I think that I'm a big believer in female relationships
Hmm.
and showing that. And I don't think, we didn't come away with like, they're best friends who are going to braid each other's hair,
Right.
but you do walk away with someone who was raised with Vincent, surrounded by men. I think that in the very beginning, you see Araya wanting female companionship in a way because, like,
Hmm.
there's who's his general's name?
Yasmin.
Yasmin, thank you. She, even at the beginning, Araya says something like, I don't want to think poorly of Yasmin. She's a woman who got here all on her own,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily trust her. Like, I think that she wants to have
Yeah.
more women, more human-like women in her life, so
Yeah.
it makes sense for that, and I felt like Misha was very rich as a character, like, especially since there's so much that she sacrificed for a god in this world that has abandoned her at this
Yeah.
point. I don't know about the second book.
Yeah. I mean, I like what you're saying because Misha was not an object of jealousy. Yasmin, the general, was, right? Because
But of a father's attention, not romantic.
exactly, her father's attention, not romantic, which was a nice twist on the
Yes.
jealous of another woman.
Yep, yep.
Misha is the female friend Araya never got to have as a child.
Mhm.
And that's what is charming about Misha is because she has that childlike naivete.
Yeah.
It makes her more attractive as a friend to the child within Araya.
Yep.
And I think that's what makes it believable for me for the two of them to be able to connect because Araya's never had that opportunity. And
Yeah.
now she gets to live out that childhood dream of like, I just want to have a friend. I want to have a
Yeah.
female friend.
She was so lonely.
Right. She was very, very lonely. I do wish we'd gotten more with Misha in this book.
Agreed.
I know that because I've read the second book, there is more of Misha, but even that lacks some Misha elements that I think are necessary. I suspect Carissa, if she hasn't already, will write a Misha oriented book.
Oh, interesting. I could see that. 'Cause, I mean, she's just such a, again, like, rich, full character that it would be
Mhm.
hard to not come back to that. I do believe that I get why Misha couldn't be there anymore. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
she couldn't because it has to come like, what are they gonna do? Kill her off? Like, they needed a
Right.
way for her to go, and it made sense. I agree. I would have liked more Misha. I would have liked that to have been there. She, so little screen time. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
story-wise, yeah, no, it needed to happen,
Right. Absolutely.
but it's a
Absolutely.
shame, but it's a shame. I'm sad that someone didn't like her.
I don't know how she comes across on the page over the audiobook
Yeah, that's fair.
because it could be different reading versus listening. Just like for Feybound, I'm sure I probably would have liked the characters more if I'd read them rather
Yeah.
than listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to go back to something we had started talking about but did not finish talking about, which was the structure of the story,
Mm,
where the story itself is broken up into parts that represent the phases of the moon, which also represent the various trials of the Kajari. And before the start of every part, we get a glimpse of the past, and those glimpses are told in chronological order,
yeah,
which is a nice reveal of what happened between Araya and her first boyfriend
yeah,
and is relevant to the plot when
mhm,
we get to it. It is also really important in seeing the development of Vincent and Araya's relationship. And this made me think of Bride and how we got the snippets of Lo before the
yeah,
start of every
same.
chapter,
Yep,
where it provides richness to the male character that dominates the life of, or will dominate the life of this female protagonist without having to have that male have a lot of screen time in the present story.
yeah, with this Vincent being Vincent.
Right, right.
Yeah, it definitely did a lot for Vincent and
Mhm.
for my love of him. Those moments are the things that made me struggle so much of being like,
Mhm.
well, I don't think he's bad, but he's
Right.
bad, but he's not like what's going back and like I keep going back and forth here. And the fact that she chose to go chronologically, like I don't think people understand how hard of a writing thing that she's doing here, because
Yeah.
each story, each memory is going to come to fruition in some way in what the section you're about to see and the growth and stuff. So it has to reflect, and you're doing it like she's making it harder for herself here.
She really, really is, because if she were a worse writer, she would
Yeah.
write memories in chronological order that would have nothing to do with the part that we're about to read. But the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is,
Sorry. Or like if you I mean, I don't want to say a worse writer, but a writer like me who might want to give up would be like, I'm gonna do it whatever, or like still have it
I'm
reflect.
gonna type jump. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna time jump. Like still
Yeah.
gonna have it reflect, but I'm gonna like time jump to
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And because like I don't want to work that hard. But like Carissa did.
Yeah, she set some very, very strict parameters for
Yeah.
herself, and she delivered. And that is very hard to do. And it was so good.
Yeah.
Every little snippet we got, I felt was so rich, and
Mhm.
it makes you empathize with Araya and her love for her father.
Yeah.
Because how else are we supposed to fall in love with a vampire king who's lying to his human daughter?
Right? And then not only does it was it like a prelude to what's to come, it
Mhm.
wrapped things up from the chapter before too.
Yep. Yep. Ah, it's just so good.
Like how do you even do that? Like you wrap up some of the things that you found out in the sections before that, and then you're kind of like teasing up of what's to come. Like that's just so good. It's those little moments did wonders to not just Vincent, but like her own Araya's own understanding of those moments too, because it's
Yeah.
almost like you can tell she's getting more clarity every
Mhm.
time it's being reflected on. It's almost like a romanticized version at the very beginning of the girl was found in,
Mhm.
in shambles and stuff. And like I don't want to say it's a cute beginning, but like, it's not of like, her family's all been slaughtered and here she is found in the rubble and she bites his finger and it's so endearing. Like there are these
Yeah.
moments that it kind of starts off like a cute little messed up story. And then as it progresses and as her own realization and acceptance of her father, the stories become a little bit harder and more graphic. Like not
Mhm.
graphic, but like there's one section where it ends with her crying in her father's arms, telling him everything,
Mhm.
admitting that she had sex for the first time, admitting all these things. And then the next one, it's like you can tell that he's trying to help her, being like, look, I'm delivering you
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
head, which this is just dawning on me now. Her father delivered the head, like essentially like for her lover, her first boyfriend, saying like, "Here, I brought like almost like I brought you this. Now we're gonna have a lesson, 2 in 1."
Mhm.
Rain brought her the guy who tried to kill her too at the beginning, and he
Yep.
says to her, "What more do you want? I brought you the head of the person who tried to kill you."
Yep. Trauma. Trauma reflects trauma.
And it's mirroring because one was
Yeah.
happened at the beginning, the other one happened at I I want to Carissa.
And and another reason why, so I want to go back to a conversation we had earlier in this
Yeah.
episode. The reason why we know they're mirroring each other, one was they do both talk about her being safe with them.
Yep.
Her father calls her Serpent from the first scene.
Yeah.
Rain calls her Viper. What are those two things?
Gosh darn.
Snakes.
Gosh darn it.
It's just,
Darn tootin'.
there's just so many levels of brilliance happening to tie these two men together, but not make it obvious.
Absolutely. I'm sure if we read this, we'd see something about like Vincent's back being described a certain way, like,
I don't remember.
to indicate, I don't know, I'm guessing, like to indicate, Rain having something on his back with his,
Mm,
or I mean, something, maybe it's like the way that Vincent never wants to show his air mark is the same way that Rain doesn't
Rain
want to
cut,
show
yeah,
his air
cut his
marks.
out. Or
Yeah.
they both, what is the power asterisk?
Yeah, they have
They
that
both have the
power.
same power.
Yeah. They're meant to mirror each other.
Yeah, they are.
And then I'm guessing that Araya's journey with Rain and the forgiveness, which will inevitably happen, it will be her own forgiveness with her father too. Like, I can tell that those themes are coming, and
Yeah. And I will confirm that
yeah.
because these two are so interlinked, you can't.
How
Carissa would have done herself a disservice to
yeah.
not have those two themes tied together.
Yeah. The fact that, like, no character is good here completely, other than
Mhm.
Misha. Misha's probably the only character that's truly good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's right. That's right.
At least in the first one. Again, I haven't read the second one. I'm looking away as I say that. So
I was trying to think about the second one before I said that's right.
yeah, I think we've only ever seen good things from Misha, and especially when you have a protagonist and it's first person, you have moments of where's her bad? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
where are the points where she's bad? Because Araya doesn't distinctly want to hurt anyone. Like, there's no maliciousness about her.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be like, all these characters are flawed because, like, one, we're in her mind. So it's like everything that she does feels like justified because we're in her
Mhm.
mind. I'm like, no, I got you. I'm like, you kill who you need to kill, boo. I'm on your side.
Right.
Because she earnestly does want to help people. And
Right.
her flaws are believing people and not getting into her own trauma.
I mean, yeah, she's gullible and she's just as much as a information withholder as her father in a lot of
Yep.
ways.
Yep.
And as Rain. Like she withholds as much information from the people as she loves
Yeah.
as everybody else because that's the only way she has learned to love
Is to withhold information
is to withhold information.
and to withhold love.
Yeah,
She says so early on, I know my father loves me. He shows me. He
right.
shows me with
Through
every punch. He shows
yeah,
me with every
with
slice of
every
his dagger.
yeah, with every harsh word, with every criticism, anything done harshly to keep me safe.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a nice little mixing pot of issues. But again, the
Mhm.
issues are seen all the way through the beginning, like all the way to the end. Like, this is how it's done. That's
Yeah.
how you do it.
Yeah.
Ah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some negatives that listeners have talked about Rain. Not a lot of development for Rain, how quick Rain's betrayal came about,
Hmm.
and his BS betrayal. People are really mad about his betrayal and also saying that he didn't develop as a character.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I can see why. And for those who didn't like it, there's a lot more work done in the second book. I think
Mhm.
what's hard about Rain and his development is that it's hard to develop a character who's so much of their story you're withholding.
Yeah.
And we see a little bit of his change in how he approaches Araya, but there
Mhm.
isn't a lot other than that to drive change in him.
Other
So,
than sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish and
no, no,
then
no, go ahead.
well, I would say he went into this competition to save people,
Right,
and he was willing to end the competition to save her.
right.
And we know how much that was going to cost him. And especially once we get his story, because you're right, like, we don't get a lot from him. It's all her point of view. We only get the information he gives, and we get some of his backstory, and we realize how much he's chosen to run.
Yeah,
Trying to kind of like wrap my head around his character development. You have him at the beginning of the book ready to step up, but resisting. He doesn't want to step up. He's kind of been his hands been forced about this.
mhm, mhm,
And then he finds a reason to not necessarily fight, like he found a reason to fight for, and that was Araya. Like, he still hadn't come to this point of like, I need to be a leader.
right. It was more about keeping Araya alive.
Exactly. It was about keeping her safe, keeping her alive, and he found a way to run again
Yeah,
and not go into his responsibilities. So, behind the scenes, I don't think that you're going to get a lot of character development. One, because we're not seeing it. Two, I think he just like is struggling so much between like what he's used to and what he's found in Araya, because he says to her that he likes that she fights, that he likes that she isn't someone who like his first lover, who just kind of accepted the world as it is. Like,
right,
she sees the shit like he does.
right.
And I think in his mind, he's like, wow, I helped her see some of the light, some of the good. I've helped her open up. That's enough for me.
Yeah,
I don't need any more than that. We're not going to get like a big development because now he's kind of his hands been forced this time to actually
yeah.
step into that leadership that he's
Yeah.
been called into.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. He is there against his will.
Yeah.
And what we learn about his backstory towards the end demonstrates how he is very selfish. He has
Mm-hmm.
chosen himself in every instance that he has had the opportunity to do so,
Yeah.
except for maybe Misha, right? The second
Mm-hmm.
Misha put herself at risk, his hand was forced.
Yeah.
No one forced his hand when it came to Araya.
Mm-hmm.
He made that choice himself. So the change is very, very subtle,
So subtle, but
but
it
it
was a
is
choice that
there.
he made. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't I think if you dislike the fact that you don't get a lot of change in Rain, I think absolutely. I think you're allowed to dislike that. I think
Mm-hmm.
that there wasn't a lot of opportunity for that since we're so limited on knowing who he is. I think that's why the second book is fun, is because we get to see more of his development now that more of the truth is revealed.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I really love that we got a character who there's so much good about him. Like
Hmm.
the fact that he wanted Araya to feel safe at every moment, especially in the romantic times, like always checking in on her. The fact that he respected her entirely, the fact that he was also flawed at the same time, being in his own
Hmm.
head. And then to find out that he has this really I don't want to say weak backstory because it's such a rich backstory, but you find out that he actually, did a lot of cowardly things. Like
Hmm.
and for a good reason. He was a trauma victim. He
Yeah.
left. He didn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
There's like very valid things, but then there's other times that he admits that he made choices that were cowardly, and that's like
Yeah.
not being able to help people. However, I mean, now I'm feeling bad about saying cowardly. It's what he says himself, but now it's like
I
it's,
mean,
there's understandable why you wouldn't want to like stick around for those moments.
yeah, I mean, essentially, if you think about it, he was assaulted and raped
Yeah.
for 70 years.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder why he chose himself and ran away.
It's not cowardly at all. It's like he left the people who wanted to stay.
Right.
And sometimes that is the most healthy thing to do. Like, you can't
Right.
save everyone. You have to do that. And I think, though, he said that once he realized that he had the mark and that he was
Mhm.
the heir, that's when he really ran away. So I guess the cowardly point comes into, I'm like trying to adjust myself. I'm like, I love Rain. I don't think he's a coward. But the part that I think that really reflects the flaws in his character would be when he decided to flat out leave everyone after their empire, their kingdom fell.
Yeah, he didn't want to accept the responsibility. I mean, I have no problem calling that a little bit cowardly
Yeah, yeah.
and still liking him
Yeah, yeah,
because
that's true. Yeah,
he's not perfect. That's
and,
okay.
he knows that that haunts him,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want that until the very end,
Yeah.
and still at the end, he doesn't like it.
He still doesn't want it.
No, and I think the fact that we go straight into once he does become the king, right, and he's trying to save Aurea again, and he puts on that role saying like, trigger warning for all these things, but saying that he's going to fuck her, he's going to rape her, and he's going to make her the, everything else. Those are moments that I can understand that like you actually see a little bit of regression in him because
Mhm.
he starts off the book being able to put on this character, this facade, and she calls him out on that. And then you see the most aggressive of that facade at the very end when he says he's going to marry her and rape her and all these things to her. And she's like, and she knows that it's a lie and that that's not what he would do, but the fact that he feels like he has to step into that role in order to fulfill a different role is
Mhm.
really hard because what does he know of a leader? That's what he saw.
Yeah.
That was his
Yeah.
king.
It's true. It's That's such a great point. I think that also brings me to the other thing that our listeners disliked, which was his betrayal
Mm,
and how quickly it happened. I actually really like how quickly it
I know.
happened.
Yeah.
Because I think we expect a certain storyline from the way things go down. And the fact that Araya makes a choice that brings Rain back to life, I think
Yeah.
was like in line with what I would expect.
Yep.
For it to go downhill so quickly from there was not the expectation. For her father to die, for him to be the heir, for her to be forced into a marriage with a man she no longer really understands or knows,
Mhm.
that is shocking. It was
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time I listened to the book, I was like, shouldn't this book be done? Why is it still going?
It's still going. We're still doing things. What's happening?
Why is it still going?
Yeah.
But I think it's really, really, I think it does a good job of subverting our expectations of
Mhm.
how this novel should end.
Mhm.
And that's why some people really, really enjoy the enemies to lovers to enemies,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
some people don't. And that's okay.
Yeah. It's it needed to happen quickly because the story isn't about Rain the
Hmm.
ruler.
Yeah.
That's I can guarantee that's a book 2 thing.
Yeah.
That you know, it needs to end on her shock and
Yeah.
her trauma and her not knowing what to do with all this information. And I think the way that it happens and how it goes down so quickly is meant to reflect what Araya is feeling.
Yeah.
The idea
Absolutely.
of like, wait, what's happening? Why are
Hmm.
what's going on? Like that overwhelming sense of like, this is happening very quickly
Right.
is the
Right.
exact same feeling that Araya has
Right.
in these moments.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it happens so quickly, she realizes so quickly, oh, I didn't have all the information and I made a very, very poor decision.
Yeah.
And because it happens quickly, it means that she doesn't trust Rain
Mm-hmm.
and realizes he's as much of a liar as her father is.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I think if he had had time to explain who he was, we wouldn't be in the emotional state that we are in,
Yep.
because he tells her, this is a mask, I'm just trying to keep you alive.
Yeah.
And if she was rational, she might be willing to play along. But because this is all happening so quickly, it's impossible to be irrational, because you thought he was someone else and not your
Yeah.
father, but he's just your father.
And then even the fact that like even in these rational moments, like he's still the guy who killed her father and not
Hmm.
even her adopted father. Turns out her father. Like
Yeah.
just as much as his betrayal, like that's sort of like, oh no, he killed her dad. Oh, her dad. Like
It's a real dad.
it's a real dad. Oh my god. Like it definitely piles up. And I think like it's just you can see in my mind, it's just as overwhelming for Rain too, of like
Yeah.
everything happening because he went from being dead to being king.
Yeah, that's true.
And
It's
he
so true.
also, I mean, talk about speaking volumes. Like he also stepped up into that role so quickly. Like once
Yeah.
he realized that he was alive and he was like he made his wish, he went right over and killed Vincent immediately without
Yeah.
having to think twice. And it's not good, but I respect it as a warrior. Like it's
Yeah. Well, and it also speaks to how long he had been essentially plotting that
yeah.
this was always the goal.
Yep. And she
And
wasn't going to slow him down for that goal.
right. Right. The only way for him to avoid the goal was to die.
Mhm.
And she took that from him.
And like talk about I can't wait for book 2. Talk about like extra layers to it where it's like, "Hey, I was willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
brought me back." Like I
Yeah.
not willing, he did sacrifice. He
Yeah.
did make that sacrifice for her.
And she took it from him.
She took it and, great, happy you brought him back, but however, like now he's going to you can't say like, "Oh, you're just going to use me no matter what." No, he died for you. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what
And
more you can do.
fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. and they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
Yeah, and I don't remember all of book 2 off the top of my head, but it does, if I remember correctly, it is a theme of like, what more do you want from me? Why are you doubting me when I've already proven I was willing, I would die for you. I did.
Yeah, you did it.
how dare you question my loyalty to you?
Yep.
Now that you've taken that from me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that talk about like, to have made that peace within yourself, and to think that you've, like, for him as a character, to think that he's like, I really did this. Like, this is what I'm finally stepping up. I'm finally doing the thing that I feel like is right for the woman I love. Like, I accept this. And then have that be null and void.
Yeah, the one time in your life you don't choose cowardice, or you don't choose yourself, and it's taken from you.
And now you're forced to do the thing you didn't want to do to begin with.
Yeah, it's shit.
Yeah, talking about the ending, I did appreciate when, what's the goddess's name? Nyaxia, when she comes down, and I was like, oh shit. Like, she's there.
Real.
She's real, yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked it, where I was like, oh damn, you always have these like books talking about the gods and goddesses and stuff, and it's like, I'm here, y'all. What do you want?
Right. Like, oh, we were playing out your life story through this competition, and oh, you're real.
Right?
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. Another moment of the fact that like a human had never played, right? Had never been part of it. Because she's half vampire. Because that's why. It's not like oh, you're special.
Right.
I love the trope of, oh, you're special, but you're actually not special, and that's the plot twist.
Yeah, which I think is done really, really well, because we're willing to buy into the fact that despite her being human, she is special. She has been chosen by a god to participate. And then the twist is, oh shit.
Yeah.
You weren't actually that special.
Yeah, like you actually can do things. Like, you are a vampire, so it does make sense you're allowed to be in here.
Yeah.
Such a freaking good book.
We talked about things about Rain people did not like. But some of the things that people liked about Rain was mostly the smut. It's actually shocking to me how much about Rain is not mentioned in our listener comments, which I think is appropriate.
It shows how good she did, though, what Carissa did.
Right, because it's not about Rain. It's about Araya and her relationship with her father. However, we cannot ignore the elephant in the room, which is Rain, the cave scene, and the sex.
It's just so good. Like,
What about it was good for you?
All of it? I don't know. I love a consent. I love a worried for consent. I love making sure that she's having a good time. I love that we're normalizing it and that it doesn't take away from the sexiness of having a guy be like, you good?
Yeah.
And the fact that he recognizes her trauma without calling out her trauma, because that's her to decide upon. He never took away her, oh, this is too much for you type of a vibe. You know, he never took away her ability of controlling her own body. So he did ask her, like, is this okay? Like, he recognizes that there were moments for her that, you know, she might not have told him about, but he could see that there was something happening, and he asked her and she said it was okay, and he proceeded. And then I think it also didn't give me sexy virgin, which I also appreciate. And you don't have to be experienced to not be a sexy virgin, because we know that her only sexual experience was with her first boyfriend, which turned into assault essentially. And there's a lot of trauma involved. I like that it was brought up, but it wasn't about that. It became about her sexual experience. Like, I felt like it handled her past experience in a very mature way, where obviously that's something that she's going to think about.
Right.
But it's not about that. This is going to be about her pleasure and her being in control and in charge of these moments. And Rain was on board with, like, showing her that she's in control and in charge of these moments. And she flat out says, like, you know, she might not have experience, but she has an imagination.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I think what I liked about their encounters sexually were, again, it was not about oh, show me how to do it, or oh, I'm just so naive. It's no, she's taking care of her needs.
Yeah.
Despite her trauma.
She's read fan fiction. She knows Omegaverse.
She is using him for her pleasure. And he's allowing himself to be used for her pleasure.
Yep.
And I think what I like about it is that, to me, some of their sexual encounters are out of necessity, right? Because it's, you know, the blood drinking and then being horny as a result of it, because that's what happens when you're bitten by a vampire.
Yeah.
But also, what happens in their moment of intimacy is then reflected in the moment of hatred and battle. And I liked how it was necessary for their relationship and necessary for her power and for her to come into her true power at the end.
Go into the, like, can you go into a little bit more about that? Like, her coming into her power sexually contributes to her power in the end? Is that what you're saying?
All right. So what I mean by that is Araya is finally able to explore her sexuality, is able to let herself experience sex despite her trauma in a way that makes her feel powerful.
Yeah.
In the relationship with Rain, right? Because he is about her pleasure, she's about her pleasure, and about having that full experience and rewriting her trauma. Within the final battle, there are things said between Rain and Araya that were also said in their sexual moment.
Like, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you're holding back.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And she thinks about that.
Yeah, I know she did. You're right. She does.
And in that reflection, Rain doesn't hold back. And his actions require her to seize her true power, right?
Yeah.
To seize her full power and give it her all as well in battle, just as she did in sex.
Yeah.
And in doing so, she is able to come into her full power, both physically. We see her use her magic at her fullest. I mean, Rain's face is basically disintegrating from Nightfire as she's killing him.
Yeah.
Right? So we see her truly take her fullest power in terms of her sexuality, her physicality, and her magic / spirituality.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really beautifully done that it wasn't just about the sex.
Yeah.
It was about the character development.
Yeah. I just realized, poor girl stabbed and killed every lover she's had.
Exactly. Talk about trauma.
Talk about trauma. And both times she didn't have a say in it.
Yeah.
Because 1, her dad made her, and 2, Rain did it. Like.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Rain made her.
Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. Mirroring,
Mirroring.
reflecting.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so good.
It's so good. Oh my gosh. Gosh darn it. That's good. Other things that I'm just gonna throw out there. Sorry, was there anything else that we wanted to cover with the smut stuff? Like, it just felt one of the things you said in the fact that we didn't get tons of comments about Rain shows that that's not what this book is about. It's about her, it's about character development, specifically her character development. I love that I don't want to walk away with him as my book boyfriend.
Yeah.
And not because I don't love him. I love Rain. He is probably one of my favorite male characters out there just because of like how much that he respects her, but he didn't go into it respecting her. He went into it like kind of like, oh, that's cute little human
Yeah.
/ like, like he grew into his understanding and respect of her. Like he was mad at her at the start, like,
Yeah.
damn it, we got to learn how to fight together. You have issues, and he is mad and stuff. So like, he went through his own thing with her, but he is one of my definite favorite male characters. I see this here and I see this in Daughter of No Worlds. Like I love her male characters.
Yeah.
One of the things at the very end that I absolutely love, and I don't mean to shit on another book, so I'm sorry. However, this is how you freaking do a marriage trope at the end.
Forced marriage.
Forced marriage trope at the very end. That's how it's done. There's resistance, there's understanding in the necessity of it, and then there's that line of like, you've lost your access to me. We're not sleeping together. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong. There are a lot of parallels between this book and that book.
There are a lot of parallels between this book and that book, which I kind of want to slightly talk about but I kind of want to talk about it because, it's all part of book club.
It's true. I want to go back, though, to what you were saying about how Rain's not the point of this story.
Yeah.
Rain becomes the point of this story in book 2 because we get his point of view.
Oh, do we actually get his POV?
It becomes a dual POV book in book 2. And that's how Rain's important in book 2. But in this book, it makes me think about our interview with Savannah and talking about women's fiction.
Yep.
If I had to give this a subgenre, or the genres I would give this are fantasy,
women's fiction,
and then romance.
I agree.
Because this is about the empowerment of a woman.
Yep. Completely and utterly agree. Maybe that's why, like, I also am trying to, like, channel it now that I've realized that my own book isn't a romance book. And, you can have subgenres. A subgenre of a book can be romance. Like, we're not to pretend like Araya's actions weren't influenced by romance involved. Like, that is clearly part of it. However, you cannot say that this is the same as another book that we read earlier this year. And I want to say this is not coming out of a place of putting female authors against each other. This is not coming from a place of saying one is worse than the other. This is coming from a place of a literary analysis. So I want to state that. And because we opened the conversation with From Blood and Ash earlier as the first book we covered, I think it wouldn't be fair to not bring it into this conversation when I feel like it's very clear that Carissa found elements that she wanted to do differently and potentially enhance on.
In some ways, I would almost argue that Serpents in the Wings of Night is a call or a response to the call of From Blood and Ash.
Yeah.
From Blood and Ash said, let me do vampires and enemies to lovers to enemies.
Well, it also, as we said, let me do what SJM didn't do with like other elements, like female characters, romance, whatever it is.
Yeah, sheltered female.
Yeah,
slightly virgin. There's so many elements and so many tropes that are the same in these two books. And From Blood and Ash came first, and then we get Carissa's Serpents in the Wings of Night. It's hard to not compare them when there are so many similarities.
And art calls to art. Like, there is a call and response, when I read SJM, it came up with a story for me, and it was like, what are the things that I am not getting from here? Like, when we interviewed Kate Golden, who wrote Dawn of Onyx, like, the reason why she wrote Dawn of Onyx was she asked herself, what am I not getting from these other books that I want to get here? And that is like, that's what you could tell when we read From Blood and Ash, Jennifer is answering a call that she felt like she had. Like, well, you know what? I'm not getting this, this, and this.
Right.
Same thing here. There,
Yeah.
you're getting that stabby female protagonist who has been training her entire life, who has a father-like figure who's been training her, who's always been protective, who goes out into the shadows and kills at night without anyone knowing, to like protect the people.
Yep.
Who then has a very charming guy come in, and then you find out that he's actually the prince. Like, yeah, there's elements.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to confirm that this book came out 2 years after From Blood and Ash.
Yeah. And this is not a bad thing. You know, one of my English teachers told me very, very early on when I was in middle school was artists like steal.
Yeah.
Art is just more stolen art. You get inspired from someone's story or from someone's painting, and you create your own version of it because you want to see a different version of it fulfilled. And we're going to see that when we cover Angel's Blood by Nalini Singh. You're going to see the parallels. I forgot that this was recommended to us because allegedly...
No, not allegedly. She said, SJM said.
Oh, she did say, okay, because it's so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
There's SJM read Angel's Blood and then came up with Crescent City. And we're going to...
I don't know if it's Crescent City or Throne of Glass, but...
It's Crescent City.
Oh, damn. Okay.
It is Crescent City. We're going to have a hard time talking about Angel's Blood without talking about Crescent City.
We'll get ready for that, guys.
So it's only natural that these two books that came out within 2 years of each other might be influenced by one another or by other books.
And one doesn't mean that one's bad and the other's not. It totally comes down to preference. Amy and I, if you can't tell, our preference leans one way versus another way.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you're into world building, if you're into like hardcore fantasy, Carissa's your book. But if you're not, and you're in for the romance and you're in for the way that romance evolves or devolves, then From Blood and Ash is going to be more your book.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Jack and I just happen to prefer the hardcore fantasy. And that's okay.
And that's where it is considered like, what is it, high fantasy? Like, it is starting to, I mean, her magic system, we haven't even talked about the magic system. The magic system's not fleshed out, so which holds me back from saying that this is a high fantasy.
Right.
You know, I don't doubt that there is some type of magic system that Carissa might know, and there's like 4 more books coming out, so, you know, maybe we'll get more into it. But yeah, I definitely end up leaning more towards that political backdrop, character arc type thing. My mom said something when I was telling her about my own book, where I realized that, like, I thought I wrote a rom-com, turns out I didn't. I wrote women's fiction, which, funny enough, I was telling my therapist that, and she was like, oh, I could have told you that, and I didn't even read anything. And I was like, all right, damn. Ouch. Esther. Yeah.
So what'd your mom say?
So my mom was like, well, you know, you want to write what you read, and I get it. I'm like, I don't want to read this. I want like cushy romance stuff. And then turns out, no, I actually do want to read this, because here I am wanting to read it. And it's like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I try to emulate in my own writing, of like, you know, I want to write a romance.
Yeah.
And then I'm just coming in, I'm like, but what if I made everyone die? You know, it's...
Yeah. But what about the political intrigue?
But what if I betrayed them? Like, but what if all these things? Yeah,
but what if I tortured my character?
But what if the torture went on for a long time and we don't really know? And then, yeah, I keep calling her Jessica in my head.
Why?
Yasmin. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yasmin? I don't know. She's Jessica in my head. She's just...
That's
Jessica.
hilarious.
But, you know, like, that's another, like, not every single direction of this book was like, couldn't tell what was coming, because again, like, as a reader, we're now trained to be like, where's, like, who's gonna betray us, where is this going? And you know, so of course there's gonna be things that we call, because like, you're just constantly doing that.
Right.
Her being a hardcore supporter was not something that I was expecting at the end.
Yeah, where she's just like, I support the crown. It doesn't matter who's wearing it.
Yeah, you're the crown. I can get you. And her being like, I can get you out right now if I want. Like, let's freaking go. I got an army. We can just go right now.
which I really like because, again, Carissa is saying this is a strong woman who
Yep.
is focused on on her capabilities, on her strength as an individual in her position,
Yep.
rather than it being all about the man.
I mean, and talk about like Carissa making me think about my own like me evaluating myself as a reader, because I kept waiting for Araya to walk in on her dad sleeping with what's her face with
Yeah.
Yasmin. Like
Yeah.
I was waiting for that scene where, you know, Yasmin comes out in just his shirt or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
turns out like no, she was actually like a hardcore supporter and loyalist. I'm like, wow, I'm a bad feminist. Like
Right. I mean, maybe they were sleeping together, but she was also a hardcore general who's really good at
yeah,
her job.
exactly. And like they never really hinted at that. Like, you
Yeah.
know, maybe they like there might have been a familiarity there, but it wasn't like that's just me assuming. Shame on
Yeah.
me.
And well, based on Araya's point of view as well,
Yeah.
and her
Yeah, shame
jealousy.
on Araya. You're right. It has nothing to do with me. I was an innocent in this.
I was influenced. I was
Yeah.
manipulated.
Araya and Carissa, they're the ones who made me like this. Yeah, I mean, genuinely, I could just wax poetic about Carissa and this book, and you know, one day, in my mind, one day, Amy, we do Daughter of No Worlds, because that would just be like our own enjoyment. Like that'd be the point where we have like so many listeners that were like, sorry guys, we're gonna do whatever the hell we want. It's this book. And because it's just like she's just so talented.
Yeah, she is very, very talented.
This is like not a good comparison, but one time I heard someone somewhere say that they compared something to Coldplay, where
Mhm.
like they can do no wrong. Like,
Mm.
you know, and someone was like, is Coldplay great? Are they the most like amazing band? No, but you know what? I'm always gonna like what they do. They can just bang on trash cans and I would be into it.
It's fair.
And you know, that's kind of where I land here with it, where I'll be into it. Personally, I'm happy it doesn't have as much like heavy political stuff like her other series does, because that
Mhm.
was, you know, definitely overwhelming for me. But I mean, I was on board from the get-go, but it was a lot. And I feel like if this is your first Carissa book, that's the best way to start with this, ease
Yeah.
into Daughter of No Worlds.
Yeah, I agree. We had other listeners make similar comments to Jack. Literally everything Carissa can do no wrong.
Yep.
The best book I've read since SJM.
Mm-hmm.
I love Carissa and her storytelling. So there's a lot of people who feel the way we do, and there's a lot of people who don't. Some of the same people who loved this book hated the second book,
Yeah,
which is sad for me. But I haven't done a second read through, but I do remember not enjoying it as much as the first, but I still enjoyed it.
yeah. I think now that we've had this discussion, I feel like I'm more prepared than any reader will be going into the second book.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to be like, you know, I know what to look for. I know
Mm.
what to keep an eye out for. I want people to know that like when I'm reading, I'm not having this conversation in my head. It's not until I talk to Amy that I'm like, "Oh yeah, and that was really great too." Like I don't know, I don't want anyone to be like, "Wow, you guys read and you're just like automatically thinking these things." And I'm like, I'm really not. Sometimes I am. Sometimes there'll be something about it, but then a lot of times our notes come from us talking to each other.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Or it is like it's things you pick up on the second or third
Yeah.
read through or
But you
listen.
have to already be looking for it. Like you knew you
Right.
were you're listening for the podcast.
Right. Right.
So it makes it easier. But I don't want anyone to be like, I didn't pick it up my first read. Like neither did I. I only did it because of this. And which is why I bet I'll have a more enjoyable time reading the second one than someone who didn't have this thorough discussion and look at all
Right.
these things before going into it, because now I'm prepared on a different level.
Yeah, and I wonder if folks who maybe didn't enjoy the second one, if you've reread the first and then go back and read the second, I wonder if
Mhm.
they would have different feelings about the second one, because even as I was reading the second one, I was like, oh, there are a lot of intentional parallels
Yeah.
and reflections from book one and book two. And I thought it was very, very well done.
Okay. Nice.
So
Nice.
I'm excited for you to read the second one.
I am too. I just have to finish reading everything else. And
I know.
who
I
was
know.
it? I was telling someone, I'm like, yeah, we're doing a book club that's like 9 books, a book a week. They're like, a book a week?
Yeah, some of our listeners were like, yeah, we can't keep up with this.
I was like, he's I don't know, like we do it to ourselves. And I think like in college, you and I had like, there was that one semester I had where I had 3 books a week I had to read.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know it was our last semester of college. Sorry, there was a gnat that decided to land on my eyebrow.
If you like to see that gnat, if you like to see that gnat, please tune in on Friday for our YouTube video. We got to get people there somehow, Amy.
It's true. But yeah, we were taking like 3 or 4 classes in each book. Each class we had to read a book a week.
Yeah.
So that's like 3 or 4 books a week. Yeah.
Those professors were brutal. Like they were like, they knew that they weren't our only class. They're like, we have other ones, but like, we're going to make you read a book a week.
Yeah.
It was, that was brutal. And that was like, I mean, luckily that was like basically, I mean, we were both working part-time too. What the hell?
I was working 35 hours a week.
Yeah, it was, I was working something. Yeah, it was not nice of them. And I have this like memory, because then they would quiz us on it all the time. And I have this memory of like me just laying on the hallway floor. And like, I think you were looking over me or something. You're like, did you do the reading? I'm like, no, I did not. I was like, can I just read your notes, please?
Yeah, because we had pop quizzes. Such a dick. Yeah.
He was such a jerk, and I've never had a C on any paper in college except him. And that paper got me accepted into York, UK, bitch.
You're not better.
I'm still mad at it.
13 years later, still mad.
Yeah, did you know I went back to his office and told him that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, hey, this that you didn't like? Oh, and then you know what he said? He said, I bet the revisions and the notes I added probably helped the revisions that you submitted to. And I was like, you're not wrong, but you bastard, how dare you?
That's so funny.
I know.
It's the only class I was ever afraid for my A. I was like, will I get an A?
Yeah, no, that one was it was very funny. I made you take it. We made another friend that Amy and I had at the time take it, and then
he asked us in the first class, why are you taking this class? Because Jack made me.
And then the next person, Jack
made me.
And then when it came to me, are you Jack? I am. And he didn't find that endearing? What the hell?
He didn't find anyone endearing.
I think I sometimes made him laugh, and I think that made him hurt.
Against his will.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, not all the time. I don't think he liked me, but I think I made him laugh a couple times. And
he didn't like that we just called him by his last name.
I didn't call him by his last name correctly either.
You didn't. My first name is Professor, and you will use it.
Yeah, not only did I not call him Professor, I called him by his last name incorrectly, like egregiously incorrectly. And he would be like, no, it's this and it rhymes with this. I'm like, yeah, it rhymes with this, and then immediately say it wrong. At least some things have never changed.
Nope, I still have to give you rhymes for you to remember things.
It's true. And I even to this episode, wow, classic.
Yeah,
we are who we are.
Yeah, some things never change.
I hope someone sends him the link to this episode.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for BookTok. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we will be interviewing Savannah Gilbo, book coach and developmental editor.
We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you would like to submit your take on any of the books we plan to discuss later this summer, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, where we ask for listener submissions.
If you are enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok or Instagram at the handle BookTalkForBookTalk. Bye.
Bye.
We try again.
Good. No, I felt good. I love how you're determined to get the bye right. Okay, we'll try it. Ready? Bye. Okay, ready? Bye.
Bye. Okay, that time it was right for me, but oh well.
Was it right for you?
Yeah, but
It was wrong for me.
Oh well. It is what it is.
Okay, I don't have my glasses on, so we're gonna
Do you want to
squint
go
into
get them?
No, because then the light's gonna reflect them, and
Got it.
I'm fine to look at you blurry. I know your face. I've memorized it.
Fair.
I wonder if I could tell if it's your face by a touch test. I kind of want to do this sometime. Want to line everyone up.
What's the first thing you would touch on my face?
Your nose.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would touch on your face too.
Yeah, because you got a cute little button nose.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.